Hi, I'm Bob Errey, two-time Stanley Cup champ. You're watching the Power Play Break, the place to talk about pucks.
Back here on the Power Play Break with Bob Errey. Bob, now, you got drafted by the OHL home team, the Peterborough Petes. Any pressure on you to stay at home? I mean, some guys like to get away, and they go somewhere else. Was there a lot of, Bob's going to play for the home team, everyone in town going to come see you, that kind of a thing? Or?
I don't know what to think. I actually thought it might be better to get away. I think I was ready to get away at that point. Just turned 16. Thought it'd be good, but I thought I'd be a higher pick than the fourth round, and I was, got to the third and then the fourth, and I was just happy to get picked at that point.
Were you thinking, maybe this isn't going to happen? Maybe Brown and Harvard and a few other places.
Actually, I was getting to think that maybe people were just pumping me with a lot of good news that was inappropriate at that time. You just never know. So, hometown turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me.
Now, were you excited or nervous going to that first training camp? Dad give you any advice? Any coaches that give you any advice on what's going to happen? Dick Todd is your coach at that point.
Yeah.
You nervous or?
I was nervous. Interesting. It wasn't my first. I actually went when I played junior B hockey in Peterborough. I got an invite to the camp, to the Petes, to try to make it as an underage. So I got my feet wet, and that was, it was tough hockey back then. There was, a lot of brawls going on, 5-on-5 situations on the ice. I wasn't big. I could fly, but there's a lot of big, strong guys that would whack you down pretty hard in training camp or try to get a hold of you. So, I felt some pressure going into junior, but I was in decent shape. The year under my belt helped me, and I knew I could score goals. So if they put me with the right guy, I think I could make things happen.
Now, Stevie Yzerman is there.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned earlier you played against him at the Pee Wee tournament.
Yeah.
What clicked for you guys? I mean, the first year you guys kind of, I think, struggled, and the next year, but then that third year together in junior, you guys combined for almost 200 points total. I mean, what clicked?
Well, I think it was just the fact that he was a right-handed shot. I was a left-handed shot. We got along extremely well.
Did Coach Todd notice this and say, hey, you guys, I'm going to put you two together?
The Petes was a different. Even as we played, there was always players that they played 4 lines in Peterborough. So we were actually second power play. We had Doug Evans, Ken Strong, these other players that.
So Dave Reed was on that
Dave
team.
Reed. We had a lot of players.
Bruce Shoebottom.
They played older guys though in front of us a lot of times, and that was just that was just the way the Petes always worked. When you had to, it was a pecking order. So we were always fighting for our opportunity, and Stevie and I had the same thing and same goals in mind. I think we were driven. He came in with a lot more luster and lore, I think, than I brought to the game. But we were both fast. We were able to make plays, and I think we challenged ourselves against some of the older guys on the team.
Now you're playing juniors up there. You're in your hometown. Are you like a mini celebrity in a sense in the town? I mean, were people like, hey, it's great you're here. You stayed home. Crowd's pretty good when you were there.
Yeah, I don't know. Celebrity wasn't really an issue, I don't think, in Peterborough. But they knew I was a hometown guy, and I had a lot more friends than everybody else, and probably more enemies too. I played other sports. I grew up with like football, I was track and field, and I was always trying to do those things. And I stayed in the same high school. Some of the guys went to a different one.
How was the balance of trying to do, junior hockey back then was not easy. I mean, it was all buses all over the place. You go to places like Sault Ste. Marie, you're going up to Sudbury, you're making those long treks. I mean, you were kind of fortunate in a sense, pretty close to Toronto and those areas. Some of the other guys having to make those trips. I mean, how did you balance the books and the playing time?
Yeah, I think that was a big thing for me. I didn't have to change the teachers or my surroundings. My parents helped out, and I actually paid rent at home when I was 16, 17. My parents were trying to, instill good values in me, and I know that, most of the guys, I don't know if it was $85 a week or something back then, but 50 would go to the Billity family, so my parents made me pay 40, and I kept a bunch for gas money because I had the big Buick Century, so I drove all the guys around in town, but it was a gas guzzler, and it was like 13 miles to the gallon.
Did you collect for the team? Okay, guys, we're going to the pizzeria. Everyone's got to put a couple of bucks in.
You have to.
Yeah,
you got to. But don't loan it out. That was the one thing. I had to have it in for curfew time. The car had a curfew, and I kind of could do whatever I wanted to do around that. But everything was good in the travel. I think, like I go back to staying at home, I think it kept me balanced. And I think it kept my schooling okay, because I don't know how some of the guys are able to change over like that, and with all the change and different adjustment, it's tough. And I think it just was an easier adjustment for me.
Now, what did Coach Todd do to prep you guys? I mean, you know, he had a lot of, when I look at that roster, there was a lot of guys who went to the NHL. What did he do to teach you to get you ready? Because he'd never really played the game at a high level, but yet he had tremendous success. I mean, he had 500 wins in 1,813 games in his career. I mean, he was the fastest guy to reach 500. Yeah. What did he do differently than the other guys?
He was a normal guy. Like, he would go in the dressing room, we'd come in and, you know, he would tell you what you should hear and not what you kind of wanted to hear. He wasn't, you know, he'd pat you on the back if you did something well, but he'd you know, he'd MF you if you weren't doing well. I mean,
is he more of a teacher in a sense, or
I don't know.
More of like a tough love?
I think it was more. I think he could be your friend at times, and but he wasn't. You know, he could be tough, or he was just so blatantly honest. I mean, you certainly respected him. He used to be the trainer when I first watched. Back in the day, like he, you know, but he'd also do funny things, like he'd get a skate lace and put it up one nostril, out the other, and go like this with it. Like he'd have fun with you on the bench. Like he was like, or on the bus, he might bring that dirty movie on the bus or something that you wouldn't expect. Next thing you know, the VCR would be plugged in, and who put this in? And we'd find out maybe 2 months down the road that, you know, that it was Tricky Dicky.
Oh my God!
I mean, he was one of the best guys going. It was fun, knew when to be serious, but he was respected. You know, he just allowed you to do those kind of things that you should be able to do as a 16 or 17-year-old, but he knew when enough of it was.
Now you're playing there in Peterborough with the history, and you know, Scotty Bowman had been there, Roger Nielsen had been there, and Mike Keenan had been there. I mean, a lot of big guys have come through there. Over 150 NHLers, and the latest now being the Stahl brothers have come through there. Was that great to be part of history in that sense in your hometown, to know that you're part of that, you know, that lineage as a player?
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, a couple years ago, I was just put into the Peterborough Hall of Fame, which is a great honor. Yeah, I thought it was great. You know, it was the amount of players and coaches that you mentioned to come through Peterborough. You felt proud wearing that jersey, you know, and you wanted to represent the city and yourself well. You know, you knew that they cared. They always had a thing where they cared about the school and all those things. I thought they instilled great values in the players. So even the ones that did not go on to play hockey after junior, I think the experience was tremendous. The ability and families were great. I just think it had and still has just a great reputation. So yeah, it was great playing in Peterborough. It really was. That maroon color was great stuff.
As a kid growing up, did you want to play for him? Did you go to a lot of junior games?
Yeah, I went to the games. I kept stats. My brother and I would be in there, and I listened to Bob Atwell score a big overtime goal in the Memorial Cup. I used to sit in my radio with the transistor. I used to keep stats of the games. I love Jeff Brubaker. So he was a big scrapper, but he also shots on net, hits, all that kind of stuff, sitting up in the stands. I love watching all that kind of stuff and watching the players that went through. I mean, great stuff. I'll remember them all.
Now, a lot of people don't know this, but Wayne Gretzky came through there briefly. So briefly, I don't think people even know he was there for 3 games. Yeah. Did you ever see him play when he was there, or?
I didn't see him play.
No.
I knew he came through, picked up at least a couple of assists, but I think it was 14, 15.
Yeah.
So even before he started off in his junior,
before he went to the Sioux.
Yeah, I mean that's where he went, but who knew he was going to turn out that way?
Now your last year in junior, you rack it up 100 points. Did that help your draft position? I mean, the '83 draft was incredible.
Yeah.
When you look at the talent pool, Pat LaFontaine, Stevie Eiserman's in there. I mean, the list just goes on and on of who was in that draft. Did you know that you were going to go as high as you were going to go?
Mm-hmm. It was funny. Went to Montreal. I heard that the Penguins were going to take me. EJ came up and he had my jersey in the hotel in Montreal. He had Bob 10 jersey, Pittsburgh Penguins, all ready to go. He said, if you're available on the 15th pick, we're going to take it. But I talked to the Rangers before that. They ended up taking Dave Gagne, 12th, I believe it was, and another great player. Had a great career in the National Hockey League, Sam Gagne's dad, and they took him. I thought, New York, that'd be pretty good too. I knew nothing about the NHL. And I remember driving, the first day I signed my contract and drove down to Pittsburgh and got my first speeding ticket. And I still remember, where am I going? I'm going to Pittsburgh. This is incredible. I couldn't believe how close it was to Peterborough, and 400 miles or something. It was incredible.
When we get back, we'll talk to Bob about his transition from the OHL to the NHL to Pittsburgh.